So hi everyone, welcome to this month's Virtual Owners Meetup. This session will be recorded and shared for you to view at your convenience on our YouTube channel. If you have missed past meetups, you can also view those on our channel. If you are seeking more one-to-one help, be sure to set up time with your account manager. It is a free service for all RVshare owners, and we will put the link for more information into the chat. I'm Maddie Bourgeois, the Senior Director of Communications and a spokesperson for RVshare. I will be today's moderator. Joining me are two RV owners who list their vehicles on RVshare. Today, we will cover a variety of topics, mostly pertaining to fleet management and renting for events. There is a lot that goes into running an RV rental business, and we hope you find this information shared in today's webinar useful. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A and we'll get to some at the end of the webinar. First, I'd like to introduce you to Louis. He is from Washington State and runs an RV business through RVshare. Louis, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so my wife and I, her name is Robin, we started our business in July of 2020. And how we started real quick is, my father-in-law had passed away the previous March, and we were just going like, we need to experience more life, we need to do more things and stuff like that. And we ended up buying an RV to go camping with family. Well, as you guys know, you guys built a business off of this. People use it once or twice a year, and so we explored the idea of renting it out. And when I was looking to see like what they would go for, if I potentially wanted to sell it, there was someone down in the comments said, "Oh, you should list on RVshare." RVshare, a friend of mine made an extra blah 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 amount of money, and I said, "Oh, great." Listed on RVshare. We ended up getting a booking that night, and then got booked out till like the end of September, which is our season here, and that was our first unit. Fast forward a little bit, we have 45 today and counting. We continue to keep building. We're the largest in Central Washington now. And we just love the business. We love what we do. I do this, my wife and I actually do this full time now, and it's been a great experience for us. We've got a total of 5 kids, but 2 are older and out of the house, and then 3 littles that are continuing school here.
Well, thanks, Louis, for being with us today, and we appreciate you taking the time. Next, please meet Ben. He is an RVshare owner from the Orlando area. So Ben, tell us a little bit about you and how you began listing with RVshare.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me today. So I'm based out of Orlando, Florida. So my name is Ben De Jesus, and I run a company called RVda Life, and we list on RVshare for the last 3 years or so. And similar to Louis, we started getting into camping because of the pandemic. Prior to that, I had an Airbnb business out of New York, Miami, LA, and I had to shut that down for obvious reasons. But we started camping a lot. We actually started going to Fort Wilderness and Orlando and enjoying the Disney parks. And at a certain point, I said, wow, well, why don't we turn this passion into a business similar to what we did with our Airbnb property? So that was where it all began. And we've been loving it so far. I love the process of trying out each new RV that we buy and add to our fleet. That's one of my most enjoyable parts, is setting it up and kind of creating an experience that I would enjoy with my family. That's always been our guiding principle, is to really offer things that we think we like when we're camping. So that's been our kind of philosophy, and it served us really well. Right now we have 10 RVs in our fleet, and we are looking to grow that. And we've started doing more of the fleet type opportunities with festivals and different events. But it's an exciting business. I love it so much, and I can just see this fleet growing and growing, similar to how Louis has been able to turn this into a full-time job. That's really what we're doing as well. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Ben. I have plenty of questions for you guys about how you built your fleets and how you're managing those businesses today. But let's start at the beginning. We have a lot of new owners joining us, and for many, it might be their first time listing. And I would just love to hear, what are your tips for getting started? Let's start with you, Louis.
Really getting started, we always have lots of conversations with people that ask us kind of those types of questions, and we always say, just have a conversation. You guys really got to understand that it takes a lot to do just one. Who's going to clean them, have clear expectations. If you're a couple, have clear expectations on who's going to do what. Don't assume anything. You know, as soon as that renter shows up at 9 a.m. to pick up your unit, don't look at each other and go, well, did you dump it? Did you clean it? Like, don't do any of that. Have a conversation ahead of time and just make sure, you know, you guys are clear on who is handling what. That's kind of our biggest thing. We talk to new renters is just making sure you understand who's going to be delivering. Like, just there's so much that goes into it.
What about you, Ben? Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would say similar to that. In many ways, the RV is almost like the last part of the process. It's a lot of logistics. So in many ways, we're a delivery company that happens to have RVs at the end of the experience, but it's a lot of like checklist and creating systems and protocols that make it easier for you to be able to scale up your business. It's hard to do it with one, it's hard to do it with two, but it's a weird thing. When you get to 4 or 5 or 6, you've already learned so many processes that work and your product is more defined that you can focus on the people's experience. So I find that once you get to that level where you've kind of worked out the kinks with 3 or 4 or even 1 or 2, then you can scale up. What you don't want to do is scale up before you've figured out how to handle 2 of them. And again, I think, Louis, you probably would agree, having 10 of them is not 5 times harder than having 2 of them. It does become easier because you start creating these processes. Like at this point, when I buy a new RV, I can go to Amazon, you know, and basically click a box and know that I'm going to get all the pillows I need, all the pots and pans I need, all of the accessories that make the experience enjoyable for your guests. The other thing is that I would just say is put yourself in the shoes of the renter. When you go camping, when you go to a hotel, you like nice pillows, you like nice towels, you like, you know, you like to have all the accoutrements, you like to have toiletries, something as simple as having shampoo and conditioner. If you're able to say, look, we have everything you need, just bring your toothbrush and some food and we're ready to go, that gives you a little edge and it helps formalizing and upgrading the premium experience that you're trying to provide.
Yeah, that's a good segue into my next question, which is just like, what makes your RV business unique? And what do you do that attracts potential renters? I think after talking to a bunch of owners here on this platform, everyone approaches it a little bit different. And I think depending on the type of clientele they're looking to attract, they might handle this a bit different. So Ben, you kind of mentioned that you do provide some hospitality there. Anything else to add with how you attract those renters?
Yeah, well, we do a lot of add-ons as well because we're in the Disney market. People are usually want to get a golf cart. They like to do outdoor movie theater night. So we provide these little packages and it's a way to supplement our revenue. And so, but again, a lot of the stuff that we provide is just like, okay, if you're going to buy the sheets and the blankets anyway, you know, what's a couple more dollars to give your guests a better, more premium experience? When we go camping, we love playing board games. So now we spend $40 and now each RV has, you know, a deck of cards. It's got Jenga, it's got Connect Four, it's got games. We do LED lighting that helps upgrade the look of the RV, which is, again, you go to Amazon for $15, you buy 40 foot of lighting, you spend a half hour setting it up, and all of a sudden in the pictures, you stand out and you look better. So again, I think providing the accessories that you enjoy as a family when you're camping are important, providing opportunities for them to add on, you know, so that you can get a little more revenue. We do the golf carts for $50 a day. You know, at Disney, they're $60 a day. So we're giving you a discount, but at the same time, if I'm going to send the truck out, why not pick up another $250 in revenue? So those are the things that I think help keep us top of mind, hopefully, for guests out there.
Great. And Louis, what about you? How do you guys handle that type of hospitality and what do you provide for renters?
You know, we kind of have a list. We kind of got our butt kicked our first full season where we scaled to, I want to say, I think it was like 11 or 12, and we had a big weekend, and we told people we supplied, you know, coffee makers and linens and towels and stuff like that and rugs. And in that first weekend to start the season off, like there was a lot of units that were just missing things. So we kind of had a quick huddle up and said, hey, honey, like we need to make sure that we have integrity with what we're saying. And every unit has to have everything that we say we're going to provide. So now we send out an email of everything that we're providing so that when people are packing for their trip, they know exactly what to bring, right? We didn't get quite into a lot of the add-ons like Ben has. Our area, a lot of people fly in from all over the country to go to these concerts and the venue that we live by. So we need to make sure that they've got plenty of linens, plenty of towels, plenty of stuff like that. We do have a lot of water around us, so we do like paddle boards. We do provide generators as add-ons. Just we try to make it as convenient as possible for people and take away any sort of worry. Our biggest thing in managing expectations for people is we love to communicate. I think that's one of the biggest things. Don't assume that the renter knows anything about RVs, because most of the time they don't, right? So we just manage those expectations, really walk people through and let them know that, hey, once you get to your unit, it's pretty much going to be set up for you, and all you need to do is basically come inside and live in it. And we do have a hand, like a one-sheeter that kind of walks them through like some of the basics,
Mhm.
But when they don't have to do much, they come in and they actually have a good time. And I mean, that just changes everything. It helps with your Google reviews, it helps with your 5-star reviews, and they keep coming back. We're noticing every single year we get more and more return renters.
That's great. Yeah, I think a big takeaway from what you both said is to know your market. You guys are both in different markets. You're providing a level of hospitality for different clientele. Like, Ben in Orlando has a lot of families flying in for Disney. You said you have a lot of people coming in for the Washington Wilderness and or going to these concerts at a big concert venue. So it's really understanding who your client is and that customer and what their expectations are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you think about how now you're running this small business, you guys kind of alluded this to the first answer, but what are just some of those best practices that you do want to set up and put in place to be successful?
I'll go.
Go
You guys.
ahead.
Okay. I mean, for us, it's the communication aspect of it, is managing expectations. We like to jump on a phone call. We like to actually talk to people live. I can't tell you how many times people have thanked me for getting on the phone with them and saying, "Oh my gosh, you took so much stress away. Um, we were worried about this, we were worried about that, and I just didn't know. We'd never done this before." Like so many times we've had these conversations. So that's kind of the biggest thing for us, and just managing realistic expectations. RVs aren't the same as houses. The toilets aren't the same. The AC isn't going to cool it down just as well as your house does. Like, you're going to get little smells sometimes because literally your sewage is right underneath your RV. So like stuff like that people for the first time would go, "Oh, whoa, what's that?" Like they're going to think back, "Oh, Lewis told me that was going to happen," or Lewis told me that, I might have trouble, starting my hot water, tank or whatever, just stuff like that. Right. So managing expectations is probably by far the biggest thing, because honestly, cleaning the units, we've got a crew to do that. Getting everything stocked, we've got a crew to do that. Getting delivered, like Ben was saying, we're just basically a delivery company, but it's the whole experience that you're painting this picture to that renter and making sure that they know and understand that when they're and their family gets into that unit, they're going to have the best experience that they can possibly have. And that's ultimately our goal.
No, I think that's great. Just to piggyback what Louis said, is just the communication is key, and letting people know ahead of time. Like, we'll send out an email that gives you kind of a breakdown of what to expect, because after a while, and Louis, I'm sure you can attest to this, the same questions just start popping up anyway. So you hear the same question after 5 or 10 times, you just put it in your welcome message,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it disappears. So the expectations is really important. The other thing that I find, especially in the Disney market, that's what it is really. We're in the Disney market, is that people also have an expectation of a quick level of service. So if something goes wrong, they want to know somebody's going to fix it. And in the beginning, we would trot out there at midnight and we would go and do whatever we needed to do. Okay, the propane tank needs to be opened up a little more, et cetera, et cetera. After a while, first of all, we got better at it, right? So you just know to look out for these little issues. The other thing is, a lot of the issues can be solved over the phone at this point. So a lot of it is just being able to be responsive when people feel like they're in a pinch. And a lot of times it's not as big of an issue as they think it is, but just being there to receive them and solve them and troubleshoot through in real time is huge. So sometimes if something goes wrong, those people end up being so impressed with the level of attention and what we do to get it right, that those people end up becoming the happiest customers. So it goes from like a negative to like, oh my gosh, these people are sending us and referring people to us.
Yeah.
It's happened multiple times. So I'm excited about always kind of finding ways to increase our level of service, because I am looking to scale up, and it can be a little intimidating. Wow, well, how can I do this if I'm having issues with 5 or 4 or 3? The thing is, you'll figure it out with 2 or 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like off to the races. If you're marketing for it, go scale up. That's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, one comment about what Ben said is we kind of, after the first year, we came to the realization there's always going to be something going on with an RV. So we switched our perspective from worrying and stressing about it, knowing like, okay, we need to learn and educate ourselves on how to handle these things. So when they actually happen, most of the issues we handle over the phone. And if it's a major issue, I've already got 2 to 3 texts kind of on call. If anything ever happens, we can go fix the major stuff. For the most part, it's all easy. It's all easy stuff.
Great. So, majority of the people who list on RVshare list one RV. I think over, 60% are just managing one RV. It's the one that they're not using as much as they thought they would, or they want to rent it when their family's not going camping or on a road trip. But what I'm mostly curious about from you guys is just how did you scale from that one RV, that's where you both started, to 3, 4, and beyond? And what are some of those learnings when growing that fleet? And did you do it through consignment, and or are you buying and putting the capital into these RV rentals? Louis,
Go ahead, Ben. I got a long story. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No problem. No problem. Well, it's interesting because the first thing that I ever did was that in Orlando, there was a nightclub that was holding a concert, and they needed an RV for backstage. So that was like my first rental. So I remember hopping in the truck and making my way to Orlando and going and setting this thing up for the first time. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So I enjoyed it. It was cool. It was a little stressful in the beginning, but then I realized, okay, this is going to work. So I had that kind of event side of the business. I had a first taste of it, but our bread and butter is really the campgrounds in the Orlando area and the racetracks, Daytona Raceway, all these kind of festivals that happen in that area. So I ended up focusing more on the campgrounds, etc. But then we got a call. I remember I was out one day and they called and said, hey, we see that you have 3 RVs on rent. Would you be interested in like a 25-day rental, a 30-day rental, and an 18-day rental? And I was like, yes, please. Because someone at the RVshare platform had realized that we had some vacancies and they were looking for a festival to put their staff into some RVs. So that was when I realized, wow, this is great. If I'm going to drive 2 hours to drop one off and leave it for 18 or 25 days, this is incredible. So I started speaking with Michael Laborde over the fleet management side of the business, and him and I became good friends, and he really helped me scale it up. And he would always be on the lookout for opportunities and festivals and things that we were willing to go out. Because in Disney, June is kind of a dead month. So for example, this month, we took 10 of our RVs to Bonnaroo Music Festival in Tennessee. Now you might say, well, why would you drive 9 hours to drop off, the RVs? Because they were for 25 and 35-day rentals. And if you calculate the 9 hours one way, if you're renting that same RV 7 times, I can assure you, you're driving a lot more than 9 hours, and you're doing 7 cleanups and all that stuff. So it's a little early in the game, but I think that the support of people like Samantha at the fleet management side and Michael Laborde has been tremendous. And that was really how we got the idea to start scaling up. And we're looking to one day get to Louis' level and have 45 and whatnot. So that's a little bit of how we got started in the fleet side.
Yeah, and just to jump in, the names he's referencing are people who work at RVshare that work on our customer success team. I had linked that in the chat here, and we'll put that in the show notes on the YouTube page. So if you're interested in that one-on-one conversation with one of our customer success team members, that's available to you. So Louis, over to you.
Yeah, so we first started with that one, like I talked about. That got booked out, and then I bought another one, a used one, used hideout bunkhouse, and that got booked out. And then we were kind of getting in later in the season, like in October, November. And at my job, I made decent money at my job when I was working. So we had a little bit of cash, and I was like, okay, and we came across this really beautiful grand design, and it was an Imagine bunkhouse. It was perfect for our family. So I told my wife, I said, let's buy this, and it'll just be ours. We'll just use it, maybe rent it out here and there. Got that on the platform, and literally I got booked out. I'm like, holy crap, like this is working. And then what really changed, so going into April, we were thinking about like drivables. Okay, what do we want to do for drivables? Well, we went with my son, graduated from the Naval Academy. He got stationed down in Texas. We're like, let's go visit him. So we bought a drivable, and we wanted to see kind of that whole experience. And that was I think a 10-12 day experience, and 36 hours in an RV. And it's just like, it was nuts, but it was fun. And that thing got booked out. So here I got 4 units that I purchased, and going like, man, this is really working. And we're sharing things on Facebook and all over the place. So a friend of mine reached out and says, hey, I'm going to give you my unit. I have this little bunkhouse. We'll just share the profits. What do you think about that? I'm like, okay. So it just got me thinking like, okay, if I don't have to pay the payment, the insurance, what would be fair? And I thought about all the expenses and things and the delivery and all the stuff. And I said, let's do a 60-40 split. And he was like, yeah, that's fine with me. At least it'll cover his payment. I think his payment, he had bought it way before COVID. So his payment's like $167 or something a month, which is nothing. Right. And he's making 3 to 4 times that amount on the rentals. And that really got me thinking. I'm entrepreneurial already. So I was already thinking, okay, so I wonder how many other people are out there that are just like him, that have these units that they don't use and they just sit around. So I started marketing towards that. I put some Facebook ads. I spent about $5-10 Facebook ads. And then I just started kind of hitting the streets. Like I started, passing out our business cards to dealerships and letting them know that we exist. Some of the major ones in the area. And then I even drove about an hour and 15, minutes away in some of those surrounding areas and said, hey, we exist. Here we are. And I started getting calls from people saying, hey, we called the dealership we bought this at. We hardly use it. They won't take it back. But I heard you rent them out. So we just started building our fleet that way. And it seemed like that first year we were getting at least 1 to 2 a month. And we just kind of kept scaling up. And there was no kind of end in sight for me. Like I was like, God, the sky's the limit. We have 7.5 acres out here. We can probably fit 60 units, you know, and so I just didn't say no to anything. And now, looking back, there are some units that I probably want to start dropping off. But for the most part, like everything we got was getting rented, and this business was starting to kind of come together. What changed it all to kind of shift our mindset and go, okay, we need to go all in is I think we're up to about 16, and my wife was handling the cleaning, and she had some help here and there. And then we kind of had I hired a fleet manager to kind of help with it, but I was still working my job. And she just called me up one day and said, honey, I need you to come home. Like this is too much. And that time we were making some decent income, to where I was looking at our finance going, okay, I probably could. And my job at the time just wasn't the greatest environment. So I kind of had a conversation with my boss and said, hey, I'm gonna give it 30 days. If things don't change, I'm gonna leave. I got my business here. It's doing well. I wasn't planning on leaving, but that's just kind of where we're at right now. And that's how it happened. And then what really kind of just really, I know what I'm really excited about with how many we have now is we are starting to get calls from the big boys. We are getting backstage. We got 33 out there this weekend for just your team, I think. And then we have a total of 40 out there for the concert. We do all backstage for Excision and Base Canyon and those guys. And we've got 35 units going to him. And we get all these calls from people now, and they're starting to go, okay, you have the units, I want to rent them all. And it's really fun and exciting when you have those big weekends like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting and a good segue into our next topic, which is renting your RV for events. I think as the RV rental industry just shifts and change. We all experienced that big pop off during the pandemic when people turned towards RV travel. A lot of people are trying it for the first time. So a lot of owners that might have been on our site for a long time are experiencing those flood of customers and booked out all year long. And now it's just a little bit different. Markets are adjusting, seasonality is back to normal. And maybe the overall interest in camping, I think it's still up, but there's so many options destinations. Cruise lines are back open, people are going abroad and opting just for other domestic travel opportunities. So I think getting creative about how you can meet the customer where they're at and why people are renting RVs. And I think a lot of what we're seeing is people turning towards RVs for events, finding a spot to have needing temporary housing. That's camping at an event, a NASCAR race, a sporting event, something like that. And so you guys have really tapped into that. That's why you're here today. So we'd love to just know, more about how you rent for events and like what that business looks like for you.
Well, I mean, I think for us, I mean, I think Ben would probably agree. It's very profitable. Some of them are longer term, and in some cases, like for example, Dave Matthews comes to the Gorge every year, and he has been for 28 years. So a lot of our campers get booked out almost a year in advance, and we actually have a 15% increase on that weekend because of the demand. Like I can literally have a unit. If I had 100 units, they would all go to Dave Matthews. It's pretty nuts. So it's very profitable for us, and so we don't shy away from anything like that. And quite honestly, when you've got like some of the employees, like they take almost better care of them than some of the people that are just there to party and have fun. So it's, for us, it's worked out great. We love the big long, concert venues and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and it's fun to set them up. It's fun to be there with them. It's great place to interact with them, develop relationships, which we're really big on. And we just, they fall in love with us, and we fall in love with them, and it's great.
No, I agree. I think it's great. And it's true. The staff tend to be a little bit more focused on working, and like the camper just becomes a place for them to rest their head. But again, once you're there, it's like, might as well give them the great experience. So we really still try to give them a premium experience, even though they're not a typical camper, so that we can come back and get that repeat business.
Mhm.
I mentioned Bonnaroo Festival and whatnot. Again, that's pretty far from where we are in Orlando. So what we'll do is we'll do a caravan. We'll get all the RVs in place. We'll have our guy stay there a couple days just in case issues arise, because as Louis said, they're always, if it's an RV, something is going to go wrong. But a lot of times those events also will have a full-time RV tech on site, for weeks on end. So they're able to troubleshoot it. But again, you want to be somebody who's there to solve your own problems as much as possible. And listen, even in the last couple of weeks, I'm not going to deny it, we've hopped in the car unexpectedly and driven the 9 hours to make sure that we're able to service them. So it's a little more challenging than being local. So we definitely want to shift a little bit of our focus more into a radius that is closer to Orlando. But again, it's working out for us, and we're excited about scaling it up. I haven't done the consignment side of the business. I'm very intrigued by that. I'm inspired by it, actually, Louis, and what you've been able to build. So that's something that we've talked about exploring. We do have some competitors who do it in our marketplace. My only challenge would be that I would just want to keep offering the same level of service and premium experience that we're accustomed to, whether we own it or not. So that's something that we're going to have to figure out. What is our baseline and what is our process to make sure that all of them feel like they're at the right premium level. So, but again, excited to get more of these types of opportunities for sure.
Maddie, I wanted to add something to what you had said. It really made me think about this, because in our experience, when you had said something about how people bought this during the boom, right? What we're experiencing now is people that bought this during the boom, they've had enough time to either pay down their loan, sell the unit, and they're actually more excited about renting because they understand that we had one before. We didn't use it as often as we wanted to, but I'd rather rent. Even if it costs $2,000 for like a week-long rental, they're happy to do it because they definitely don't want that payment looming over them when they bought it during COVID. So that's kind of what we've been experiencing in a lot of our conversations with our owners who we co-sign with, and also people that are just renting the units. They're like, yeah, we had one, we sold it, we'd rather rent, and it's so much better. So yeah, we did see a little bit of not necessarily a drop off in the beginning of the season. But I think it's just kind of leveling out a little bit because, and I guess it depends on location. Where we're at is like these campgrounds have been around for a very long time up in the Cooley City area. Um, the Pendleton Roundup, which is down there, it's been around for, Gorge has been around for 40, 50 years, you know what I mean? So we're kind of in an established area where things haven't changed much, and those families still continue on with their traditions of camping and doing family reunions and things like that. So
That's great. Yeah, and I'm definitely one of those renters. A super user. I rent multiple times a year and fly to different markets and rent from there, and it's just a great way to experience RV travel. One thing I wanted to clarify for those listening is when we talk about consignment, if you don't know what that is, basically it is when you own the RV and allow somebody like Louie's company and Ben's in the future probably to rent and manage it for you. So if you think about it from a vacation rental standpoint, most people now who have vacation rentals use a property management service to manage the rental, whether that's communicating with your renters, cleaning it, setting it up for your current renters. It's the same concept. And I think it's a growing business here in the RV rental industry. And so if you're interested in that, you should definitely look in your local market, or if you're in Washington or Orlando, maybe reach out to these guys, but it's definitely something that's expanding. Our customer success team also has great connections in that world. So if you were to talk to your customer success person, they could also point you in the right direction if you're interested in learning more. So next thing I wanted to talk about is just when you're renting for events, how is that different than maybe renting to somebody who's doing the traditional campground or visit or road trip? And Louis, you kind of touched on this, but do you price your RVs differently for events?
Yes, we definitely do. So our delivery fee is a little bit different. It's a little bit higher. There's a lot that goes, like yesterday, for example, we had 4 that we're dropping off to the public, and it probably took us 45 minutes just to sit in the front of the gate to wait for the person to bring us back and park it. So there's a lot of little extras. So we kind of take that into consideration, and more than double the amount for the delivery fee. A lot of these places, they're not like your traditional campsites where they've got sewage or water. So we fill the fresh water tank for them. We have to, there's no power either. So we have to provide generators and rentals for them. And then we also do a sewage dump fee. So all of these add-ons kind of, they add up, and it adds to the bottom line. And we do make some money off of it. So that kind of is a different thing. But as far as getting them set up and making sure they all have the same amount of stuff in it, stuff like that, like none of that changes. Like the overall experience, we want to make sure that if they're at a concert having fun and they're hanging out with their friends, then it's going to be a good time with our camper. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, typically for us, when we're doing the festivals, we're more focused on the staff rentals. So those are a little bit of the longer term rentals. So we haven't, like when we do have a customer going to a festival, if they're only there for 3 days, we actually haven't been able to factor in the extra delivery fee. But hearing you say that, I should, because it's true. Like you go to Daytona 500 and it's slow going to deliver the thing. You're going to be sitting at the gate sometimes for 2 hours, and then you have other deliveries that are wondering where their RV is, and it's hard to say, well, we're at the Daytona 500 and this is what it is. But it's a little more challenging logistically. But I do like the longer term rentals for the staff. I find that to be kind of the sweet spot for what we do. But yeah, we're still giving them sheets. Make sure you got enough. Make sure the coffee machine works, and make sure there's pods and toiletries, and you got enough towels for people like that. And but yeah, we don't typically we don't take away from the experience that they would normally get as a typical renter.
Great. So we've talked about running, this fleet business, how to kind of scale that. We've also talked about, what it's like to market to events and price those out and set up for those. I would love for the audience here to hear you guys explain, kind of walk us through like facilitating a trip for a renter, maybe specifically, a traveler who's going to a campground or something like that. So, how do you vet those renters before, and do you vet them, or do you instant book? And then once they book, kind of what happens next?
We don't do any instant book, so we always require approval, and it's just because we want to make sure we understand who the renter is. We set the age at 25, so they've got to be, above that that age there. And then we try to set the deposits high enough to where a responsible individual that has a credit card, that manages their money well, there's just different indicators, right, of responsibility. And then we always like to have conversations. I don't know why, because I'd say 70% of our rentals go to the gorge, but we always get those people that try to lie to us and tell us they're not going to a festival. And I just flat out say, you're going to the gorge, which is okay. We rent to the gorge all the time. So and then getting on the phone with them and really handling any of their concerns, because most of them, like I've said before, are first-time renters, and just walking them through kind of our process and what that looks like. And they always thank us for it afterwards, because they just didn't know how it was going to look and how they were going to find our unit and all these different things. So that's kind of like some of the processes that we really kind of hold true in vetting people. And then it's really difficult to say this, but like we try to stay away from the hagglers, from the people that say, I'll do cash. You want to do cash deal? I'll do, if you knock off $200 to $400 or whatever, like stuff like that. Because if they're going to haggle you on something that, we believe we provide a very, very good service. And if they're going to haggle you on something like that, then honestly, they're probably going to try to come back and say, hey, I didn't, your bed was uncomfortable. Can I get $200, in a refund or something like that? So we've learned that if they're haggling you there, then to kind of try to stay away from them, and they can probably find something else. We don't need everybody. Honestly, we don't need everyone. There's plenty of renters out there, and we'll find people that appreciate our service.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. We don't do instant book either as well, even if it's just a quick, like, hey, let's just take a quick look, see what it's like and who they are and whatnot. It's not a huge vetting process, because really we trust that RVshare has done a lot of that heavy lifting already. But to just have that one extra step that gives us the right to say no is important for us. It gives us a measure of control. And I think you're right, Louis. Like sometimes if they start in the beginning with that kind of attitude, in the middle they're going to give you something, at the end they're going to give it can be a big red flag, and it's just not worth it. We've had some experiences that we regret later, where we tried to be a little bit more flexible and it ended up biting us back. And so we're trying to stay away from that. If you don't like the price, it's okay. You can get a hotel or you can do something else, but this is what we're offering, and this is the price, and we think it's fair. So that's but on the other hand, if something happens, let's say we're 30 minutes late or 45 minutes late for a delivery because of the whatever issues may have come up, we will have, like, in the back of our truck, we'll have an extra fire pit, because we rent those for $35. So we might just say, hey, here's an extra fire pit, or here's an outdoor movie theater kit, something that just says, look, we apologize, we want to make this right, and it doesn't cost us much to just give them a free rental of whatever. We have 2 bikes, we'll have a fire pit or outdoor movie theater kit, and people are like, again, you're taking a negative and turning it into a positive experience.
Great. Well, thank you to you guys so much for your tremendous insight so far. We're going to move into our Q&A portion. So if you have any questions for Lou and Ben, feel free to put them in the Q&A chat. But we have some to kick it off. So viewer named Robert is interested in knowing what kind of units do you guys have? Are they travel trailers, Class C, or a mix? I think people are also interested in knowing kind of that age range of what the make and model year.
We try to keep everything 7 years and above, newish. There's a lot of people that still run out, a lot of older ones. I've got a really good friend of mine and potentially business partner who's got, early 90s to, I think his newest one's 2007, and he rents them out to a lot of the staff at these places, and they literally sit there for 9 months out of the year, and he makes great money. And then I'm sorry, what was your first question?
Yeah, just age, and do you have travel trailers or Class C's or a mix in your fleet?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually a really, really common question I get a lot. Bunkhouses for us work really well. So families of 5, right? Two, a mom and a dad, and 2 to 3 kids. Bunkhouses work really well. I do know in like Seattle area, Class B's and Class C's, rent really well. A lot of the drivables, because they fly in, they like to get met at the airport, take the unit, and then basically have it picked up at the airport. So stuff like that does really well. But for us, a lot of the campgrounds, the sand dunes, the gorge venues. I mean, I'd say, out of our fleet, we've got 6 fifth wheels, 1 Class A, 3 Class C's, a class. No, 3 Class C's, a pop-up camper, and the rest are all bunkhouses. And we got a handful of like smaller units, but
Can you clarify what a bunkhouse is?
yeah. So anywhere from, like, I would say, like a full bunkhouse, so 24 to like 34 feet, 35 feet, right? That has those 2 bunks. They're kind of a full queen in the back. There's the smaller ones that have the single units. Those are kind of the smaller units. Those are great, but for littles. But for adults, for us, you can fit 2 adults on each of those beds, and then you got the queen up front, and then a lot of times you have the dinette, which is sometimes fairly large, and then the fold out bed that can convert into almost a full bed also. So those that'll sleep kind of the most. We get a lot of people that don't mind paying $1,500-$1,600 for a weekend, because honestly, they're splitting it between 6 to 8 people,
Yeah.
So
So they're travel trailers.
Travel trailers, sorry, bumper pulls, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got 2, I think, fifth wheels that are bunkhouses. Yeah, two fifth wheels that are bunkhouses.
For us, we have 10 units. We have 3 of them are fifth wheels, and then the other 7 are travel trailers. They are all bunkhouses. We find that having that second door gives you the opportunity to give couples, like if 2 couples want to enjoy it, or if a couple with their family and the kids want to be able to have their own little privacy in the back. So we have all travel trailers or bunkhouses, one combination to the other. In terms of the years, the oldest one that we have now is 2021. And then the newest ones we still have the 2023 units, because typically we'll find that if you buy somewhere around the late fall, early winter is going to be where the dealerships are trying to offload their inventory from that previous year. So in other words, most likely we'll be buying the 2024s in December or November, because all of a sudden we're able to make some really great deals with that. So yeah, that's our inventory.
Nice. And Louis, do you guys allow pets? And when you do deliveries, do you subcontract out those deliveries? I think, do you have other people?
Yes, we do allow pets. We are all pet friendly. And we charge like $60 per pet. And it's basically just an extra pet cleaning fee. And then delivery. So yeah, I mean, we obviously need help, right? Because my wife and I can't just do all 40. But so I've got a list of probably 10 to 15 drivers, and I try to keep them kind of to the close core group. I've got one guy who works for me. I pay him a salary over the season, and he's got a full-time job. He's more of a fix-it guy, but he also has a truck to drive. And then we've got 3 diesel trucks. And then I just bought my wife one of those diesel Duramax Suburbans that can haul 8,300 pounds. So we use that too when we're hauling stuff. And then, yeah, most of the people I have, I mean, we live in a farm community, so a lot of people have trucks around here and stuff like that. So it works out great. But yeah, when we got the big weekends, we just try to go, okay, if we have 20 all that we got to deliver in one day, that's, what is that? 4 drivers going back and forth 5 times, so that's what we'll do. And then we contract out. We do all 1099, mostly 1099 employment, and that's kind of how we pay it out. Yeah.
We basically we have 2 trucks right now. We're getting a 3rd truck now. We can handle about 4 to 5 in a day. So we don't subcontract. We've tried that, but because ours are a little bit more, there's a lot of setup involved and putting out the chairs a certain way and the hammock a certain way and all these things. We haven't found the solution to be able to subcontract that completely out yet. So we do everything in-house. But obviously it gets a little challenging when you have 10 deliveries in one day. That's when it's almost like the rule of thumb is like for every 4 units you have, you want to have a truck. So we're right on the edge of that. Like we have 10 units and we probably need a third truck. And but then once you have the third truck, you're like, well, 10 units is not enough. I need 3 more units to it's a it's a slippery slope, right, Louis?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially when it's working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is a good question. How do you guys handle RV storage? I think storage can be expensive, so how does that fit into your business?
Yeah, we're kind of in a unique situation where we live. We've got 7.5 acres, so we've had to do some work in the back and then in the front just to make sure we've got plenty of room, like bringing in gravel and flatten things out, cleaning things up, stuff like that. We are in the process right now of purchasing a 10-acre piece of property that is actually close to the gorge. That would be just fantastic for growth. We have a goal to hit 100 units within the next probably year and a half, I would say. And we want to be, the largest in Central Washington. Really kind of, there's some of these folks need 100 units at a time. They're starting to put in powered sites at the gorge, and we'd love to be kind of an exclusive provider for them. You know what I mean? So yeah.
For us, we're in the process of looking for a couple of acres to store our RVs, but in the beginning, we found a storage facility the closest to like the gate of Disney. It's literally like a half a mile from the entrance. But if you've been to Disney, that doesn't mean you're close to where the campsite is. It's like another 20 minutes of driving in the Disney complex to get to the campsite. But yeah, right now that's unfortunate that we're giving that money to a storage facility because we didn't plan on having so many of them there. But it has become now, it's like, oh, this is enough to pay for a mortgage for a piece of land. So we're in the search right now to get a piece of land where we can have our own like depot.
Miguel asked, what large events are you guys seeing in your market? Kind of mentioned a few of those, maybe could clarify. And how is RVshare helping provide access to those events?
We have the Country Thunder Music Festival in the fall. There's a lot of races at the Daytona and Sebring raceways. We have there's other events, the Okeechobee Music Festival, etc. And then in terms of how is RVshare helping us, a lot of those festivals, the ones that I mentioned, those are just customers, retail coming to us straight forward. We're just now starting to explore expanding into doing the staff RV rentals, and RVshare has been very instrumental in that. They'll negotiate rates as best as possible with the actual concert promoters, and then they come back to us and say, look, this is what we were able to get, and we got your delivery fee, et cetera. So in terms of the larger scale opportunities, RVshare is extremely critical and instrumental in making those opportunities happen.
Yeah, same here. I mean, obviously with this weekend, we chatted a little bit about that, right? Having the I think it's, I keep forgetting the number, like 30 units for RVshare. And I think it's the Insomnia crew that's renting those. And you guys did negotiate a great rate. And Samantha reached out and we ended up connecting on the phone and told her how many we have. And so that's been awesome. What was the first part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's more just like how to find those events in your
Mm.
market to be able to rent for them. I mean, tell me if you don't think this is a good idea, but you could also just like, do your own research and put that in your listing on your RV and say, I rent for the Gorge Amphitheater, because
Yes.
Google RV rentals for Gorge Amphitheater, your listing might come up and or be what they're scanning when they're searching for an RV on RVshare.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because I do actually. We spend a couple $100 a month on Google Ads as part of our advertising, and I have one landing page that is specific for Gorge Rentals, and I get a lot of activity from that. People are searching for Gorge Rentals near me, stuff like that, and it's not super expensive. I mean, you could scale it down to however much you want to spend, but that's a great way to. Google, I think, does a good job of getting people out there, and also. What I've seen is that RVshare, they're typically either number one or number two. And if you've got that language in your listing, some of those keywords, like those units will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's great.
Yeah. We have a few questions around delivery. We've touched on it a few times, but we'll clarify for everyone. So how do you price your delivery fee? And if you could touch on too, just are you guys mainly delivering, or do you allow people to tow your units? How popular is that split?
We, 80% of our, 80, probably even more, 85, 90% of our rentals are deliveries. We, in the beginning, when we started, we're just trying to cover costs, right? Trying to make more of a value, but realizing, you know what, it's a lot of wear and tear on your vehicle, a lot of mileage. I mean, these oil changes on these diesel trucks aren't cheap, so we started making decent money on them. And so for us, anything within a 25-mile radius is $160 minimum delivery fee. Anything outside of that, we charge about a buck. I think it's a buck 75 per mile up to 300 miles. So it can get kind of pricey, but I mean, you're essentially making 4 trips. You know what I mean? So if I've got something I got to deliver 2 hours away, that is 4 trips at, say, 178 miles or something like that, right? So it's pretty far. And we haven't had too many people. I think we found the sweet spot. At first we were kind of really expensive, and then I scaled it down a little bit, and then I went back up in the middle, and I think we're kind of at a sweet spot where it makes sense for renters to pay it. Of course, they might want to, haggle a little bit, but I'm pretty flexible when it comes to like places, especially with return renters and places we go to all the time where we're real familiar with and we know it's going to be a quick, easy setup. I don't go, I'll go, okay, fine, I'll knock off $40, something like that.
Yeah, for us, the delivery fees are based on 149 for the first 20 miles, which is kind of a round trip. In other words, that includes the pickup as well. So for like Disney, it's 149, and for other areas that we know, it's 149. It's not a profit center. It's more like, let's just pay the guy and let's pay for the gas. And sometimes you even lose money on the deliveries, because what you said, Luis, is right. It's like, it's 4 trips. For you, it's, pick up and delivery. For us, it's pick up. Now we got to go back. We got to pick up. It's a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of letting people tow it, we did that in the beginning. We were very excited to get any customer we possibly could. And then we started realizing is that people are more confident in their trailer hauling skills than they should be. And the other thing is that they don't realize when they would get to the campsite, they say, well, there's a lot of dirt on the floor. And they don't realize, like, we do a final sweep when we drop off. So like, of course there's dirt on the floor because there's all these nooks and crannies of an RV trailer that when you're bumping along the road, they just, no matter how much, it's not a hospital floor. No matter what you do, these are campers that are in the wilderness. If you don't want to see dirt, then don't go camping. So we found that little final sweep that we provide at delivery is really important, like literally a broom. And all of a sudden they say, wow, it's fantastic. Or if the dishes would fall around and all that, those are things that they would never see because we just fix it. But when they're delivering it, all of a sudden they think it was an issue on our part. So we kind of don't do it anymore. Every issue that we've had, insurance claim or otherwise, for the most part, has been with somebody trying to tow it themselves. So we're not offering that right now.
Yeah, and so I think you both, alluded to that it's the majority of your business is delivery, and so the same we're seeing on the RVshare side. Almost half of the RV rentals, even though a lot of people think quintessential RV trip is a road trip, a lot of people are getting them delivered. And when they learn that there's the opportunity, they're actually more inclined to try out renting.
Yes.
It's an easy way to get more people into the space that might be a little bit more hesitant. So renting, definitely thumbs up for that. Delivering, definitely thumbs up for that. I think it's a great thing to provide if you can. So final question here before we close it out for today. And then you were just talking about damages and that those do happen. You guys also said it's an RV, things are bound to break, things are bound to happen, but how do you handle damages to your rentals?
Yeah, well, look, the insurance is there for a reason. A lot of times we will get pushback and they say, well, if it's going to be on the campsite, why do we need insurance? And I say, well, 90% of the problems happen when they're on the campsite. You know what I mean? People are driving a golf cart, they ram it in the side. So what we do is, we immediately file a report. We let RVshare know immediately. We take pictures. We, we probably have had, I hate to say, just because of the volume we're doing, probably have had at least 8 or 10 claims in the last few years, which it sounds like a lot, but when you have 1,000 reservations, it is what it is. But, RVshare and the insurance provider has been very helpful, and typically they will send out an assessor to see what the damage is. And then it's pretty straightforward. It's they say what the value is. They allow you the opportunity to get it fixed yourself. They get an estimate going, and then they provide the payments to reimburse you for the repair. So it's been pretty seamless. So yes.
Yeah, for us, little things fix it. Incur the cost. It's just cost of doing business. You know what I mean? Major things, yeah, that you got to make claims on. We've only been fortunate enough to just have one claim, and it was an awning on one of our personal rigs that a gentleman on his way home after he unpacked it at his house hit a tree and tore it off basically and didn't realize he did it. So he's going down the road and it's like half hanging off. Pretty nuts. Gets to it and he's like, whoa. gets to our house. So anyway, and then we went through that process, and yeah, it was pretty smooth. I'd say about a month and a half, we ended up getting a nice check, and then ended up just going up and having him repair it. And we actually made a little bit of money based off of the quote that that they gave us and stuff, and then the check we got. So that was good. But any little stuff, I mean, you're just gonna have to. It's just part of running a business, honestly. I wouldn't nickel and dime every little thing. You're renting your RV out. A kid's gonna nick a cabinet. Something's gonna get kind of tore off, so you're gonna have to fix it. Like stuff like that. You don't. I know, just for us. I don't know about you, Ben, but this is how I feel. Like we don't try to. We just. I hire a guy to fix cosmetic stuff, and then we fix anything that we can fix, and then we get it out for the next round. Yeah, and then when we're because if I take it to a shop, guess what? I've got to cancel all those bookings for the rest of the summer, and I'm not going to do that. I'd rather wait to the end of the season to take something in, but yeah, we just kind of keep rolling.
Yeah, our claims have been like big ticket items. Unfortunately, we've had 3 golf carts total. Oh, and then we've had 2 golf carts ram, they put it in reverse instead of forward, and all of a sudden they rammed into the side of a bunkhouse. So it's any nicks and all that. I didn't even know we could claim that. I wouldn't do it if it's easy for me to fix. But yeah, all of ours have been unfortunately kind of big ticket items. But fortunately, nobody's ever gotten hurt, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for all your insights. I thought this was such a helpful conversation. And if you're listening and want to know more about renting your RV or have more questions, we have done these owner meetups for a few years now, and you can find a lot more content on our YouTube channel. Louis has actually been on before. We've had other RV owners who do just own one rental or maybe 1 or 2. So these guys are definitely a little bit more on the professional end, and that's what we were trying to achieve in today's conversation. But if you are interested in that content, head to our YouTube channel at RVshare. Thank you guys so much for your insights. We'll get this recording up on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.